Today, I'm going to dig into and share some of what's working now. I want to share a simple tweak that cut my lead cost by more in the last couple of weeks, which means double the opportunity for the same price. Either I save 50% or I get double the opportunity. I want to share some things that I've struggled with and fixed. And actually, a conversation for some of you that were on earlier, you saw me on the phone, a conversation that happened, which was a good reminder for us all to make sure that our stuff is working, our tech is working. So having checks and balances in place for that. I also want to share what for me is the best seller lead generation right now. I'm reminded of this frequently, ebb and flow on this, and some best performing short form videos over the last few weeks as well. It's going to be a little more of a hodgepodge, right? It's what's working now. And I just want to get tactical a little bit, share some things that you can directly implement after today's call or whenever you have the time. The sooner, the better. If you missed last week's session with the one and only Jay Kinder, I would highly encourage you to go back and check that out. The replay of that is on the Josh Shanley Coaching YouTube channel. It's in the Facebook group if you're watching in there as well, or you follow along in there. You can check it out. And I would also strongly encourage you all, if the tech part of this business is overwhelming to you, and you are one of what I would say the majority of agents who could sell more homes and help more clients if you could just have more conversation opportunities, then I would also highly recommend you check out buildwithjosh.com. I have a afternoon stacked with appointments. So I want to do my best to get right into the good stuff here. If you have questions or you have an idea or thought to share that relates to whatever it is I'm sharing at that point, please don't hesitate to either open up your mic, drop a comment in the chat or on Facebook. If you see me looking over here from time to time, I'm trying to monitor that as well. If you're watching the live stream in the Facebook group, do me a huge favor and hit the thumbs up there as well. I want to get right to it. And James, if you can help me monitor the Zoom chat, that would be awesome. Thank you. Let me find the right window here before I start sharing. Okay, here we go. I want to, first and foremost, the one tweak that took my cost per lead from $7.82 down to $3.70. If you watched last week, I hinted at this a little bit, but I want to show you exactly what I mean today. So a couple weeks ago, using the service that Jay and I were talking about last week, it's called Funnel Pilot. They helped me create a Facebook ad campaign that looks like, now it looks like this. Oh, is it not going to load for me? I might have to go and copy and paste it again. Let me just... There it is. Okay. These new construction homes in Mechanicsburg must sell ASAP. Check out the list of incentives that are available to make these homes super affordable by tapping the Learn More button below and get instant access. And I will say, admittedly, like, this is a very simple, plain Jane ad. There's nothing, I don't know, there's nothing out of the ordinary with this. And for most of you, there's nothing about this that you couldn't implement in your own area. Now, if you don't have new construction inventory, there are other ways that you could craft an offer or other types of properties that you could feature, just listed, price reduced, single story. There's lots of different niches that you could use this same strategy with. But when we first launched the ad, we used this image. Now, I would say that this is a better image. I would say that this home is cooler looking. It stands out more. It's more interesting, in my opinion. But it doesn't matter what my opinion is or your opinion is. What matters is the opinion of the people who are going to opt in and become a lead in your CRM, who are going to give you their name, email, and phone number. And so this is the image we started with. And when we switched to this one, which again is relatively underwhelming, the lead cost dropped drastically, again, by more than 50%. It was at $7.82 for name, email, phone number. And now we're below $4. It's at $3.70. Big deal. I posted on Facebook earlier this week, yesterday, I think. Big doors swing on little hinges, or little hinges swing big doors, whatever that W Clement Stone quote is, but it is the reality, right? The trick in any business or with marketing is figuring out which levers to pull, which of the small hinges swing will have the biggest swing. And if you're running ads, Facebook, Instagram, or even Google pay-per-click, more so, let me address that one, the first one, and then the second one. So more so on Facebook and Instagram, which is a visual medium, the thing that will have the biggest difference or make the biggest difference in your cost per lead is the image. And like literally, we changed nothing else about this ad other than the image. That's it. And again, what would have been better is if I had these two examples and I took a vote of everyone on here, because I would be willing to bet a considerable sum of money that this one would have won the popular vote of all of the other wonderful agents and brokers watching this. But our vote doesn't matter. The consumer's vote is what matters most. Okay. So that's an example of a little thing that can make a big difference. The only other thing I'll say with this, which also relates to Google pay-per-click ads, is the offer does matter. Like what you're offering matters, but all things being equal, especially on Facebook and Instagram, the image can drastically change your results, good or bad. You've got to give it enough time before you start tinkering, which can be difficult for many of us, myself included, to have the patience to collect some data and some feedback before you go tinkering. But in this case, I want to say the original ad was running for 7 days. Generally speaking, if you spend at least $30 to $50, you get a good idea of whether or not that ad is working. Like that's a good baseline of data that you can then see if you can beat the control. And that's all we were trying to do here. Okay. The cost per lead wasn't terrible. $7.82 to get somebody with their name, email, and phone number to raise their hand and say, yes, I might want to buy a new construction home in Mechanicsburg. That's not terrible. But if I can make one small tweak like this and get double the opportunities, why wouldn't I try to do that? Why wouldn't I have the patience and the due diligence to do that? Which, by the way, this is all part of the process of what we offer with the new partnership with Jay. In other words, this came from A, they set up the original ad, and B, we did an ad review. It typically happens, they try to set them up 3 days after the ad is live to do the review, but my schedule and their schedule, we were all busy. So mine happened more like 6 or 7 days after the ad went live. But that review process is how we decided, let's try a different image. And I could guess or try to understand why this one is working so much better, or I could just be okay with the fact that this one's working way better. And when the cost per lead starts to go up on this, I could find another variation of this type of home and try that. Something slightly different. James, I think I saw your hand up. Go ahead.
2 comments. Can you see them or you want me to read them?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't see them.
Isabel says, are you using KB Core to create the list of new construction homes? And Celeste asks, how did you decide to change this image? Was it a guess?
Okay. Oh, great questions. Wonderful questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Number one, yes, KB Core. So when, and this is another like little thing that I'm already finding is making a big difference. So when this is a lead form, right? So they're not being taken off of Facebook or Instagram for that matter. And when they opt in and they submit their information, they automatically are fed into my KB Core, name, email, phone number. B, they can immediately start looking at homes, which is just an IDX squeeze page for KB Core. Now, it is set up so they don't have to opt in again, okay? So it's set up when you create those, you can make it so that there's no forced registration. That's what's happening here, because I don't want to frustrate people. I don't want to make them have to opt in again. Okay, so they can immediately search homes. There are 56 new construction homes available in Mechanicsburg right now. That's where this is coming from. They'll also get an email with the link to the list, and they get an automated text and another email to make sure they got the list. Okay, which you might think, isn't that a bit much? All I'm doing is trying to make sure they got the thing they were looking for. That's it. I'm not hounding them to schedule a time to go look at model homes or whatever. It's just to make sure they got the thing they wanted. That's it. And you can really screw this up if you try to take it farther than that for folks who aren't ready. In other words, if or when they reply and you push too hard, you get commission breath, you can lose them as a client forever. I've just found that once they confirm, depending on their tone and their level of interest, I might ask another question. And if I can get them to open up, great, we'll continue it. But if I can tell that they're busy or they're a little standoffish, I'm just going to back off and let them start with the information that they wanted, because one of the many beautiful things about KV Core is the behavioral automation will let me know when it might make sense for me to follow back up with them. For example, they will get automated search alerts of new construction properties in Mechanicsburg. And if I see that they've looked at one in particular 5 times, I might ask if they go check it out, or I might ask if they'd like more information about incentives available in that community. So don't push too hard, especially early on. Take a service-based approach just to make sure that they got that question. James, do you have another question? Because I think I missed one question to answer still.
Celeste has 3. How did you decide to change this image? Was it a guess? Then she asked, when you say you automatically allow them to opt in, what are you referring to? In other words, they register once and can always come back. How? And should we create a sample client and try this first to ensure it works?
Okay. Oh, man, there's so many good things in there. Number one, how did we decide to change the image? The cost per lead was above 5. 5 is like the target number. There are no perfect scenarios. What I mean by that is if you're in a super competitive, really high-priced market, your target might be 10 or less. Okay. But in my market, and just based upon the team's expertise, our target goal was $5 or less. We weren't at $5 or less. We were over that. So we got to tweak something. The number one thing that will have the biggest impact on that cost per lead is the image. So we tested that first. If that didn't work, the next thing we would have done is test the copy. Specifically, right now, the copy above the image, it is generally speaking best practice to make sure that the learn more button is above the fold. Now we're seeing the full image here, but if they see it in their news feed, which you'll see in the preview, I'm getting into the weeds here, just making sure that the directive of what they should do next is higher up. So instead of check out the incentives that are available, we could reverse it and say, you see right here where it says check out the incentives, I might flip it and say, tap the learn more button below for instant access, and be sure to ask us about the list of special incentives available right now. Okay. So just little things like that. But first and foremost, the image is number one. Number 2, Celeste, how do you make the page where they don't have to opt in? If you're using KV Core, and I would guess that other platforms have a similar function. Please don't steal Nicole as a lead for me here, people. On the left-hand side, we're going all lead engine tools, and we're going IDX squeeze page. And the way you can not force registration is you choose never right here. So property views allowed before registration, never. Now, I only use that if I'm sending this specific scenario, someone just opted in, I don't want to make them opt in again, or if I curate a list that I'm sending as an email, either in a smart campaign or as a broadcast email, like a one-to-many email, I'll also make sure that I turn that off as well. Because again, once people are in my environment, they're in my database, my CRM, I don't want to force them to go through more hoops again. And there was one more question that Celeste had, and then I see Fernando has his
Should
hand
we
up.
create a sample client and try this first?
Okay, so there is lots with this. Absolutely, positively, yes. You absolutely should test. Anytime you build out any marketing, test it. And here's a very real world example. I had a problem a week and a half ago with my smart number. Okay. Now, your smart number is like your personal number in KV Core. I had no idea that there was a problem with it. I had an inkling there was, because I hadn't been getting any text responses. And I thought maybe it's something with A2P or carriers, whatever. And then 2 Saturdays ago, I got a call from a real estate agent, another agent trying to show one of my properties. And she said, just so you know, the number I called first is not working. And I was like, oh my, what do you mean? What's not working? And she told me exactly what it was saying and what was happening. So that's a small example, but I can tell you over the years, I have wasted hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on things that I thought were work. Realize, funny that I haven't gotten any replies to that, or funny that I didn't the XYZ. And then I go and test it and my email is spelled wrong in the follow-up or whatever. And so absolutely test and retest, right? Measure twice and cut once. And just for those that are wondering, the smart number was just a very weird set of circumstances. It wasn't KV Core or Inside Real Estate's fault. Maybe on some level it was, but it was a very strange set of circumstances. It's fixed now. And for those of you that were on early, I was on the phone with a client or a potential client in my database, and she had replied to one of my text messages a couple of weeks ago when it wasn't working. And I actually sent out a text message earlier, a blast. She said, you texted me a couple of weeks ago. I replied immediately, and I never heard from you. So I apologized. We had a great conversation. I gave her my personal cell, etc. And she told me exactly what she's looking for and that we're going to help her buy a house in the next 3 months or less. I recovered it, but the point is you want to have a set of checks and balances in place to test anything that you're running, number one, and it probably makes sense to have once a month, anything that's critical to your business, you check that's working too, right? And you could just set a reminder on your phone or set up a repeating calendar event the first of every month. Hey, check to make sure this, that, and the other thing are working, because you could have something wrong with your business email, right? Something may have happened to your business email. And until somebody tells you, you might not know, right? If you have phone numbers like a smart number, or you're using ProEd CRM and you have numbers in there, like just call them from a different number or text them from a different number just to make sure that those things are working. Because if you're spending money on that stuff and the goal is to create conversations, because conversations lead to clients, you want to make sure that you're not having the opposite desired result. So Fernando, and then I saw James had his hand up again.
Hey, real quick, going back to your setup there on KD Core with this ad, is that something that the team did for you, or are you doing this on your own?
No,
they did it. Okay.
Yeah, I do build my own ads, but because we partnered with them and because I want to experience what people that we are partnering with, like Richard, and we had a fellow named Hank come on, and probably have Lorraine coming on board sometime this week, and a small team in Delaware. I wanted to experience it so I could speak to it firsthand and also stress test it. I'm pretty good at this stuff, and there may be some little tweaks in their process that might help everyone get better results. And so, yeah, that was a long answer, but they set that all up, and that tweak of the image came from our follow-up, which is part of the process. So they set up the campaign, and then ideally they do a 3-day review. Like I said, ours was more like after 6 or 7 days, just because I was real busy and whatever. And that came from that. Okay. And that's just step one of a 3-step process, right? Step one is getting a predictable, what Jay refers to as an oil well, building out and creating that pipeline of opportunity. Step 3 and 4 are the branding and the content that matches up with the oil well.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Celeste, one more question.
Okay.
Celeste says, lastly, are you using if this, then that?
I don't know what that means, Celeste. I do, but specifically to this, what do you mean?
Okay, so there's an environment called If This Then That. There's an acronym ITTT or whatever. It's a service, and it's allowing something that's happening in your business. And when this event comes in, you can direct it to do something else. So I was thinking maybe the leads that you have coming in, you're then directing them into KV Core in something else.
I'm using Zapier. But also API Nation or Zapier is what will get them from, they opted in on Facebook to into your KV Core, or it could be into your Follow Up Boss or Lofty or Real Geeks or Sierra Interact, whatever the case may be. We're using KV Core. I'm not familiar. I wasn't sure what you meant by that. It sounds like maybe that is also something similar. but I'm using Zapier, but API Nation will do the same thing. And I think if you're at EXP and using KV Core, I think you can get the API Nation integration for free. I think they have a paid add-on, but you can, at no cost, get the Facebook, Instagram lead ad to KV Core hookup for free, I believe. All right, so this wasn't a big one on my list, but it is another illustration of big doors swing on small hinges. I'm going to tease something here that I could show you all how to do, but I'd rather just mention it. And for those that want me to, I'll just make like a loom on how, if you're doing this stuff yourself, I'll make a loom. And if you're going to use us or partner with us, I'll make sure that it's set up this way. When you're making a Facebook lead ad and you're creating the lead form, in that process, you can check a box that says, I also want to start a Facebook Messenger conversation with this lead, okay? So you're getting name, email, phone number, and Facebook Messenger. So it's another channel of conversation opportunity. I bring that up because in the last 24 hours, we've gotten one application that Maria on my mortgage team is following up with today to get a pre-approval. And I had another that told me in very great detail exactly what they're looking for in a property. Both of those happened on Messenger. They opted in, they're in KV Core, I have their name, email, phone number, but they didn't reply to any of the email or the text messages. They both opted in over the weekend. They didn't reply to me by email or text message or anything, but they did reply in Facebook Messenger, and it has not had any, I've tested it on a bunch of different ads and campaigns. It has not made any difference in the cost per lead. So it literally means nothing. And this is just foreshadowing. If anything more ever happens with the whole, I can't even remember what it was called, but the whole thing with the phone numbers and not being able to call that was going on at the beginning of the year that then just got punted for another year. If that ever comes up, to me, the logical channel to punt to is Facebook Messenger. It's like text messaging anyway, right? What I'm going to be testing is tomorrow messaging all of those leads, my deal of the week. So my Mechanicsburg new construction deal of the week, I'm going to send it as a Facebook Messenger and see how many conversations come from that. And Celeste says, and people feel safer with Facebook Messenger because of the distance to you. Yeah, I would say that different people feel different levels of comfort with different channels. And so the more channels, or the more you can let them choose their own adventure, the more conversations you'll have. And the more conversations you'll have, the more clients you will end up with, right? Like it literally, that is that one thing. If you don't have the amount of clients or pipeline or production that you want, the KPI is conversations. You're not having enough conversations, period. There may be other things that are also problematic, but I can virtually guarantee you that is the big domino, more conversations. All right, the bullet point, key performance indicator, key performance, key metric, key number, whatever. KPI, I guess, is a fancy acronym, but like it's the one thing, right? Gary Keller, the one thing. That one thing, if you have more of those, you're going to end up with more clients. And if you're having lots of conversations and you're not, then it might be something with how you're handling those. But I would say that for most of you, conversations is the first domino or the first pillar to attack. Okay, so who wants more seller leads and listing opportunities? Show of hands. Okay, I go back and forth. Thank you, Richard. Double hands up. I go back and forth all the time on, do I spend a bunch of money getting people to opt in for a home valuation or to request cash offer options, etc.? Or, and this is what I usually come back to, or do I use an offer like the one that I just showed you that when people opt in for, 50, 60, 70, 80% of them have a home they already own that they would probably need to sell to either trade up or downsize. Theoretically, that sounds great, but I want to give you some factual data. That ad that I just showed you has generated 46 leads in the last, I think, 3 weeks, but less than a month. Okay, 46 leads at $10 a day for whatever that's worth. So I have not even spent $300. I guess it's significantly less than that because the aggregate cost per lead is now below $4 because I had the higher cost per lead for the first week and then since switching. So the aggregate cost per lead is below 4. 46 leads. Okay. And I shared a video over the weekend that I think if you're generating leads is probably the most important thing that you or someone on your team needs to be doing with every lead. But I'm not doing a good enough job of making that cool and sexy enough because hardly anybody watched the video. But I'll dig it up and I'll put it with this, which is figuring out when someone opts in for your whatever it is that you're offering, do they own a home? And for how long? And what kind of home? Does it look like this might be somebody who would be downsizing from a 2-story home? Does this look like a family that might need some more space? That one thing, like exponentially, it makes every one of your leads, and context here, a lead is a person, right? It's someone in your market, either currently in your market or looking to move to your market. It's a real person, right? So it makes every one of those people that are opting in exponentially more valuable. Why? Because you can then provide follow-up information. Okay, you can provide them with information that is more relevant and congruent to who they are. So if I have somebody who opts in for my list of new construction homes available in Mechanicsburg, and I do the work that's in that Loom video that I posted everywhere, I emailed out, etc., and 4 people watched it. If you do that, and when you do that, and you determine, okay, this person owns a 2-story home in Carlisle, I can send them information about the value of their current home or even offer options on their current home. I can set them up with a market report in KV Core for the zip code that home is in. I can more congruently follow up. And then when they respond, I can go into KV Core and see, oh, they own this home, blah, blah, blah. And I can ask smarter questions. I don't want to get creepy, right? It looks like you own a blah, 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 blah. But you can ask questions that are more congruent and relevant to their situation. So those 46 opt-ins, okay, those 46 leads, how many, I didn't do a good job of taking polls and so forth at the beginning of this. I'm trying to weave it in now. How many do you think from work that takes me 60 seconds to do, maybe 90 seconds in some cases, how many of them do you think I was able to determine own a home, and therefore I got them set up with their address in KV Core. I got them noted as a seller also. I got them set up with a market report, and they'll get my monthly update on home values. How many? Nobody wants to play. Come on. Take a guess.
100%.
I wish.
Why'd you do that
You
question?
should have said 10. You should have said 10. All right, so it's 24. 24. Okay? 24. Okay? Here's another way to put it. Even if I only counted those as leads, I'd be generating seller leads for less than $10 a lead. If I only counted those as a lead, quote unquote, and I hope I'm not glitching out too bad. I keep freezing on my screen. I don't know what's going on with my internet. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I'll have to figure out what's causing that. But anyway, if I only counted those, my cost per lead would be less than $10. But now, more of them might own a home, and it might just be that I couldn't figure that out. But my follow-up will uncover those other ones, right? Because once they start responding, that's part of my conversational interaction with them, right? And in fact, I've got text and email scripts that ask that directly, like my reverse psychology text script, which is you're probably not ready to buy right now, but when we do help you find the right property, do you have a home you need to sell first, right? And when we use that script, we send it only to the people in our data in KV Core that we know opted in for something buyer related and we don't have an address for, because then we can figure out more of those addresses, right? If I already know that they own a home, don't ask a question you already know the answer to. There are other ways you could frame it to them. I know you may, so here's what you might send to the seller portion. I'm sure you're probably not ready to sell right now, but when the time is right, will you be staying here in Central PA or will you be relocating elsewhere? Simple questions like that create more conversations. And more conversations. Andrew, well done. Andrew, after I revealed the number, posted the number in the comments on Facebook. And here's what I would also say is that if I am think about it this way. What people get excited for is the new home. And I don't mean like a new construction home per se, but like the home that they'll be moving to, whether it's a home with land or a new construction home, or they're downsizing, no maintenance, low maintenance, etc. Okay. Most people do not get excited about selling the current home. You lead with the carrot, right? The carrot and the stick. 2 ways to motivate a horse in a horse race, right? The carrot or the stick. Have you ever heard that analogy? You lead with the carrot, and if you get them excited enough about the carrot, then you can address the stick part of it, right? The fact that, what are we going to do with this current home? We've got these offer options. We can put it open on the market, whatever the case may be. What was my third promise? I can't remember. Oh, short form videos. So 2, and we've been doing a video ad boot camp the last couple of weeks. There are 2 video topics that have worked really well. One that all of you can do, and one you can do with a listing. Okay, it has to be your listing or someone else's listing. And by the way, all of the resources, the screenshots, etc., I got busy this morning and I have appointments this afternoon. But tonight, I'm going to put that all into a document. I will make sure that is included with the replay of this when it gets posted tomorrow on the channel. I'll get it added in the replay in the Facebook group. And if you don't see it for whatever reason, drop a comment, DM me, whatever. I'll get that to you. I'll get you the screenshots. I'll get you the ads, even some of the scripts that I mentioned, and these video scripts that I'm talking about now. I'm going to give you like the gist of them, but I'll give you word for word script of both of them as well. So the one for a listing, and this is not like revolutionary, okay? But a video, if you're allowed to do coming soon, okay? If you're allowed to do coming soon in your market, because I know there's some different stuff going on with MLSs, etc. But I have a listing that goes live tomorrow. We had it coming soon since last Tuesday, I think. And when I went and put the sign in the lockbox, and yes, I do that myself because I'm there at the property and I can create content for the property, okay? Recording a 60-second or less video teasing that it is coming soon. If you're going to do an open house, you could also record a 60-second or less video about the open house, or a 15-second or less video about that as well, 15 seconds or less, because if you're going to run ads on YouTube for that, you can make it non-skippable. In other words, you can force everybody that you choose, the geographic and demographic targeting, to watch the full video. So the coming soon, you want to hook them up front, right? So mine was very simple. Coming soon, here in Hummelstown, PA, Lower Dauphin School District. I gave the address because I want them to drive by. I want them to check it out. And at that point, this is part of what makes this work. At that point, it was coming soon, but it only had one image. Strategically, don't put all of my images and floor plans, etc., into the MLS until we're getting closer to live. Okay. So I give information about the property, 4-bed, 2.5 bath. This is a former model home. It's built by E.G. Stoltzfus, very spacious and open. It's got a beautiful back deck and patio. There's a unfinished walkout basement with 9-foot ceilings. If you'd like all the pictures, plan, and additional information, depending on the platform, but my script was tap learn more, scan the QR code, or call or text me at this number. Okay, so that's a simple video script that you can use, and you can put money behind it with a YouTube ad, or you could just share it organically on YouTube, on Nextdoor, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, etc. That specific coming soon for that specific property generated me 3 pretty high quality leads, in the sense that they had to reach out to me to ask for the thing. 2 emailed and 1 texted for the link to the photos, the floor plans, etc. And then I could follow up with them. And I've invited them to the open house, which is now this weekend, etc. Marilyn said, can you use a team members coming soon listing? With their permission, absolutely. Get their permission. A beautiful thing about EXP is we have open cooperation for each other's listing. Now, if it's someone you don't know, if you're at EXP and we have that relationship, or you're at another brokerage where they have that relationship, you still probably get permission, or at least give them a heads up. Hey, do you mind if I create some social content and video content with your coming soon listing? But absolutely. And James, were you going to chime in on that, or was that something, you had something else?
No, I was just calling.
So that's one. The other script is one that you can all use every month, which is a home price report. So for whatever your target area is, I'll use Mechanicsburg because the ad that I showed at the beginning was Mechanicsburg new construction home. You hook them up front. Did you know that the average home price here in Mechanicsburg for March 2025 was blank number? This is Josh Shanley, your favorite West Shore realtor. In the month of March, we saw X amount of homes sell here in Mechanicsburg. The average price was X. The highest price was Y. The lowest price was Z. If you want a line-by-line report with every one of the homes sold and the prices they sold for, just go ahead and tap Learn More, scan the QR code, or go to the link on the screen. And you can, that is a simple video that all of you could record every single month. You might mix up how you hook them in, right? So maybe you're not saying the average home price every time, but maybe 1 month you say the highest priced home that sold. 1 month you say the lowest price. 1 month you say the average price. 1 month you say the average days on market. 1 month, I don't know that you'd lead with the months of inventory because that, or months supply, that maybe can get a little bit confusing for folks, but like you can mix up. And the thing my buddy pointed out, because honestly, my April video for that, the Mechanicsburg home price report, I just said, this is your Mechanicsburg, PA home price report for April 2025, which I think you can use once. But if you say that every single month, it gets like, it's very repetitive. And my buddy pointed out, take one of the stats and lead with that, because a very specific number is going to create some curiosity and draw them in. And then the report, for those that I literally just emailed the report, it's a PDF that you can download from your MLS. You're literally giving them the line-by-line report, and you've got somebody there's probably a reason why they're asking for that home price report. So those are two short-form video scripts that worked really well for me here in April. I have about maybe 9 or 10 minutes for Q&A for if anyone has anything that they'd like to share that's working really well for them, we can open it up for whatever the group has to explore, or we can wrap it up early too. Oh, here's one other thing. I need a dedicated entire session for this, but generating those new leads, that's fun, right? We all get like the dopamine hit if we have leads coming in, but the vast majority of the money in those leads will come from the long-term work. It will come from doing the work of what I call dispositioning, right? So playing private investigator, figuring out which ones own a home, and then setting up follow-up, okay, automation and manual follow-up that is more specific to what information you found on them. Of course, making sure that you're using smart campaigns and so forth to catch the low-hanging fruit, because that's the trick here, right? You want to catch the low-hanging fruit so that you're not missing anything on that front, but do so in a way that you don't chase away the long-term money by being too aggressive, because 6, 9, 12 months, that's going to be the average time frame that someone transacts. And yet, in the last 24 hours, I've had 2 leads that opted in over the weekend that I'm in conversation with. And one may be looking at houses this weekend. So you want to capture that without chasing away the ones that are interested. They're just not ready to go today, right now. Do I use a touch that is you on video? Yes, not enough probably. And I do a lot of retargeting. So I do a lot of video. So those people that are opting in, they are likely going to see video from me, but maybe not me emailing or texting them. And it's not that I don't ever do that. I probably don't do it enough. And for those of you wondering, like, what does the long-term follow-up look like? Because I know it's like cool to think like you have this, you set up a smart campaign or whatever your CRM calls it, and you set it and forget it, and then you just wait to cash your commission checks. That's not reality. You want to use automation and smart campaigns, et cetera, to the best of your ability. But if you're just relying on that, you're missing out on the majority of the opportunity. So what do you do manually each week and each month? Each week, a deal of the week. Okay, a deal of the week at minimum. I'm going to challenge you. If you've been doing a deal of a week, you probably need to start sending another email or 2. Okay, so if you send your deal of the week out on Tuesday or Wednesday, you should probably send out another email on Friday or Saturday. I am working towards having a cadence of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Honestly, just because I'm busy, it generally has been twice a week. So sometimes it's Thursday, Saturday, sometimes it's Tuesday, Saturday, sometimes it's Tuesday, Thursday, depending on also how busy I am for the weekend, et cetera, with kid stuff. Most of you are not, beyond automation, most of you are not following up, I'll call it aggressively enough, but it's not aggressive. You're providing interesting stuff. You got your deal of the week. What else do you send? Sometimes it's a direct message. Like I was in prepping for this, I have now gotten 2. We have 1 under contract and 1 that I'm looking at a home with this afternoon from a Saturday email I sent in, I don't know, early April, or I might have even been late March. Actually, it was the last Saturday in March because I know where I was with my daughter that weekend. We were at a basketball tournament up in northern Pennsylvania in Williamsport area, and we have now 1 that is under contract thanks to that, and I have an appointment this afternoon, new construction townhome. I think he's going to like it. The number's going to make sense on it. You know, we'll see if we end up going under contract on that. But most of you are not
Reaching out frequently enough.
and then reaching out through text. I would set a goal of once a month, everybody in your database in some form or fashion. You got to figure out how to make that work for you, but that would be a minimum. And then all of the contacts in my KV core that I have an address for, they get a home value. I send them to their seller and cash offer dashboard with iList, which, by the way, Joe is going to be on in a couple of weeks. I'm now set up with the enterprise account, which allows me to do some cool things, including save folks in my organization some money, but also deploy some things through that portal that work a little bit better than most. Fernando.
Are you going to be posting these videos to the Wake Up Real Estate page?
They're live streamed into the Wake Up Real Estate group, Facebook group, and then I add them all to the Josh Shanley Coaching YouTube channel.
Okay, but not the page is no longer being used, or that's just
It's still there, but I'm not putting them there.
updating it?
Yeah. Yep.
Got it.
Hey, Josh, I know you're low on time, so I'll keep this really quick. With text messages that I've found, did you know about the average price and stuff that you were talking about? One thing that I've found a lot of success with is the change from month to month. Did you know the average price in Eagle Mountain changed from $555 to $562, which I have found gets more interest on why the change and gets more people reaching out to me. So I found a lot with that. And Celeste, when you talk about touches on video, on all of my follow-up campaigns, I've replaced at least every other email or text with a video giving pretty much the same information, because it helps people understand who I am, my personality, and whether you want to work with me and we're going to work together, great. Or more importantly, if you don't like my personality, so we're never stuck together working with each other if you don't like me.
100%. Now, one thing that I would say that I need to weave that into what I'm doing more, but I do, if they reply and there's any way I can justify sending a personal video, I do that because I want them to see my face. I want to be able to, I don't want there to be confusion about the tone of the text that I'm writing, right? Because tone, there can be confusion on your tone by whether it's an actual text or text in an email that can be misconstrued or whatever. So I want to convey, just like Shay said, I want to give them a feel for what it will feel like if we were to work together. So definitely huge proponent of that, and something that, depending on the day, I'm sending out personal looms 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10, sometimes more, and sometimes less. Some days it's none. And Shay, a great point on connecting the dots between what it was to what it is now, or explaining what it means. So if you mention month's supply of inventory, explain what that means, because the consumer has no idea what that means. So I did that in my market update video for March, like the one that I recorded in March. I did include the month's supply of inventory, and I said, and all that means is if there were no new houses that came for sale, it would take about a month and a half for all of the current houses to sell, right? So just like simple, taking something that might seem confusing or not have context to them and connecting the dots of context for them. Celeste also said, do you use events where you will be at? I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but this might answer. I think I'm growing more to view, and I got to end on this point because I have a noon 3-way Zoom with a possible new partner. I think about it as event-based or evergreen. Event-based or evergreen. Event-based would be an actual event, a client appreciation event, whatever, an open house, like a new listing. That's event. You would do marketing based upon that event. It's something that happens in time. This listing is going live. That's an event. Versus evergreen. Like the campaign I shown at the beginning, that's evergreen. But also, and I would say when you commit to doing a deal of the week, that's an evergreen marketing event. Like you're going to do it every week, right? So you should have a process or a standard operating procedure for that. Versus events, you would want to follow a process for that. We have an open house this weekend. I'm going to end on this. We have an open house this weekend, and part of my morning was I created an event for that on Nextdoor, on Google Business, on Facebook, one other place, I can't remember. I also created a Facebook Marketplace listing talking about the event that it's open this weekend. It's the listing, but I mentioned in there it's open this weekend. I created a Craigslist ad or listing for it, mentioning the open house, right? So that's like event-based versus I'm not going to have an evergreen system for this listing that is going to be under contract by Monday night or Tuesday morning. I hope that helps. All the resources I mentioned, I will compile all of that together. I'll put it in a Google Doc. I'm going to put it with the replay of this. If you can't find it or whatever, just let me know. Shoot me a DM, comment, wherever you may be watching this. I forget what the topic is next week. I know Joe is not next week, but he's in a couple of weeks. We're going to talk about iList, some of the new landing pages and that functionality. So that'll be exciting. If you haven't already, would love for you to check out buildwithjosh.com. Check out the video there and just give me feedback, right? I'm curious to know any of that. And if there's anything I can do to help you, genuinely, I've had 3 Zooms yesterday and the day before, just getting to know other agents, getting an idea of where they're at and how I can help. And I would love to do the same for you if you're interested. I'm not hard to find. Just shoot me an email. Text me at 717-571-0456. You can schedule a time at josh15.com. Thank you all, especially for those asking questions and for your participation, but everybody for spending some time on a Wednesday. And I hope to see you all next week.
See you guys.